Our next speaker is Steve Andreas, and his topic is Therapy isn't brain science. Knowledge of neural anatomy doesn't replace clinical skills. Steve has been learning, teaching, and developing brief therapy methods for over 45 years. His books include Virginia Satir, The Patterns of Her Magic, Transforming Yourself, 6 Blind Elephants, and Transforming Negative Self-Talk. Steve.
Okay, I'm going to plead the geezer card. I've got a lot of wiggles from old age. I can't see very much, particularly when there's bright lights like that. So I've got a handout which, by the rules of the house, I had to leave at the back of the room. If you didn't print out a handout, you can get it later during a break. I want to present a video today. The video was made 30 years ago in my callow youth of 50. And I now have 30 years of follow-up, and the gal is still fine. It's a video of PTSD. I called it a phobia at that time. A young woman of 11 had fallen into a bee's nest, got stung hundreds of times, had to have her rings cut off, and so on. For her, it definitely met the DSM-5 category of a terrifying, life-threatening experience. That was her perception at the time. It's 8 minutes long. It's a complete process that I've used hundreds and hundreds of times and taught to hundreds and thousands of people through books and trainings and so on. So I'm going to show that. In order to understand it up front, I have 3 main things I want to make, points I want to make. One, you need to make an unconscious change. People come to you complaining of unconscious problems. Even someone who ruminates or intellectualizes can't stop doing it. It means they have no voluntary control over it. So in order to make a change, rationalization and talk therapy, as is usually used, will not make any difference. If you use your rational mind to do something different, then you have a chance of changing the unconscious experience. And that's the second point, is that most therapy is about description. Paul Václavic many years ago made this very important distinction between injunctive language and descriptive language. Injunctive language says do this, do that, try this. Injunctive language is the language of science. If you heat this metal up to a certain degree, then this will happen, and so on and so on. Your cell phones are based on an injunctive language of mathematics and science. Now, the third and most important part of understanding this presentation is that there are 2 ways of having a memory. I think things are much more simple than most people think in this field. I can remember this moment an hour from now by being here, feeling my hands on the table, seeing my fingers wiggle, feeling my butt on the chair, feeling any feelings I'm feeling inside, or I have another choice. The other choice would be to see it from your point of view. From your point of view, I'm behind this table. I would see myself behind the table with this various apparatus and so on. I would see my wiggly fingers from your point of view, not mine. Now, you can easily verify in your own experience that that second one leaves out any feelings, any emotional feelings. Just leaves them behind. This is a choice that most people don't have consciously available to them. Most people don't know that when they have a PTSD flashback, they're going back into an experience, and they have the choice of being out of the experience and seeing it from the outside. So I think without further ado, I will show the video, and then we can I'll talk about it a bit.
Lori, I haven't spoken to at all.
No.
So you've talked with Michael, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what kind of outrageous promises he's made.
I won't tell you. I won't tell you what he promised.
Okay. Anyway, you have a phobia, which we won't tell them about, okay?
All right.
And it's a very specific thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just one thing, or is it kind of a class of things?
It's one thing.
Just one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what I'd like you to do first, well, think of it right now. If one of these were flying around right now. Okay. This is what we call pretest. That's fine. Come back.
Thank you.
We're
Okay.
not going to do stuff like that, right? Okay. Now, look out at the folks here. I got to sweep the chair. How's it just being in front of these folks? Is that a little nervous making too?
Not bad.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. You got a friend over there, right?
Yeah,
He's got a nice smile,
he sure does.
doesn't he?
He's a great friend.
Yeah, good. Okay. Now, what I'd like you to do first is, before we do anything, the whole procedure, by the way, is very simple, and you won't have to feel bad and stuff like that. But we need to make a few preparations. And what I'd like you to do first is imagine being in a movie theater,
Okay.
and this might be easier with your eyes closed.
All right.
And I want you to see a picture up on the screen of yourself, black and white snapshot. And it could be of the way you're sitting right now, or something you do at home or work. Can you see a picture of yourself?
Uh-huh.
Is that pretty easy for you?
Uh-huh.
Good. Now, I want you to leave that black and white picture on the screen, and I want you to float out of your body that's sitting here in the chair up to the projection booth of the movie theater. Can you do that? Take a little while.
Okay.
Okay? So, from now on, I want you to stay up in that projection booth. And can you see yourself down in the audience there?
Mm-hmm.
And you can also see the black and white picture up on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, of yourself?
Yeah.
Pretty interesting, huh?
It's good.
You know, you could go to a workshop on astral travel and pay $250 to learn how to do this. Okay. Now, I want you to stay up in that projection booth, see yourself down in the audience, and see that black and white picture on the screen of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Got that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want you to stay up in that projection booth until I tell you to do something else.
Okay.
So you can kind of see through the glass, and there's holes in the glass so you can hear the movie, because we're going to show a movie pretty soon. What I want you to do is run a movie of yourself in one of those bad times when you used to respond to that particular thing. And run it from beginning to end, and you stay back in that projection booth. You might even put your fingers on the glass and feel the glass. And just run a whole movie clear to the end. See yourself freaking out over there in response to one of those situations. That's right. Take all the time you need. Just let me know when you get to the end.
It's hard to get to the end.
Okay? What makes it difficult?
It just seems to stop. The thing seems to go over and over and over. The particular incident goes over and over and over and doesn't seem to have an end, although I know it ended.
Okay. So it tends to go over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How many, let's speed up the movie. How many times does it have to go over and over before you can get to the end?
Half a dozen.
Okay. So let it flip through half a dozen so it'll allow you to get to the end. And when I say end, I mean after the whole thing happened and you're back normal again.
Okay.
Okay, got to the end?
Mm-hmm.
Was that fairly comfortable for you watching that?
A little uncomfortable,
Little
but not
uncomfortable,
bad.
but not bad.
Yeah.
Nothing like the real thing, right?
No.
Okay. Now, in a minute I'm going to ask you to do something, and I don't want you to do it until I tell you to go ahead. What I want you to do is get out of the projection booth and out of that chair in the audience and go into the movie at the very end when everything's okay and comfortable. And then I want you to run the whole movie backwards, including those 6 times around. Ever seen a movie backwards in high school or something? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to have you run it backwards in color, and I want you to be inside it. So it's just like you took a real experience, only you ran it backwards in time, and I want you to do it in about 1.5 seconds. So it'll go about like that.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead. Do that. Okay? Did you come out on the other side all right?
Yeah.
A little weird in the middle there, huh? Okay. Now, I'd like you to do that a couple more times and do it faster. So go into the end, right at the end, jump into it, and then go zoop, real fast through the whole thing. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now do it a third time, real fast.
Okay.
Okay? Is it easier the third time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, now that's all there is to it. Pretty weird, huh?
I'm glad I didn't pay for this one.
Now, crashing and burning. Fine, it's all right. We love to joke. Joking is one of the nicest ways to dissociate. Think about it. When you're joking, when you're having a humorous response to something, there's really no way to do it other than popping out for a while, looking at yourself, and sort of putting a different frame around what's happening, such that it's funny. It's a real valuable way of dissociating. And we believe that dissociation is the essence of a lot of humor. Not all. There's different kinds of humor and so on. But we definitely recommend it. Now, Laurie, would you imagine now that one of these little critters came?
Okay.
What's it like? You still have it?
No.
It scares her. No, this is a nice response because it looks like what? Consciously, she's expecting to have this response. She's had it for how long have you had this?
20 years.
20 years. She's had this response very, very dependably for 20 years. It's been a very unpleasant, overwhelming response. There's a very strong conscious expectation. And what you saw here was this conscious expectation going, it's going to be terrible. Oh, what?
It's true.
No, let's make it a real bad one, you know. Have one come in and land on your hand or something. Can you imagine that?
Mm-hmm.
What's it like?
It's like having one sitting there on my hand.
That's a typical answer. It's like so funny. It's like being in an elevator, you know. Isn't that a mind-boggling?
Yeah, it is.
That's the sensory-based experience part of this talk. The rest will be talking about it. And I want to point out several important things that what I think are important. One is I test her unconscious response at the beginning so that I can know that at the end it's either there or not there, whether what I've done has worked or not. This is, again, science. I've got a bachelor's in chemistry from Caltech, so I have a little bit of standing to talk about this, although they probably wouldn't let me in now. After I test, she goes into the phobic response, and then I have to distract her and get her back out of it. So I give her a series of basically hypnotic commands. Look at me, hold my hand, look out at the people in the audience, and so on until she's regrounded in the present. Before we do anything is a very interesting frame. It takes away any possibility of performance anxiety. Am I doing this right? We haven't begun yet. So just by saying before we begin and then moving into the procedure, it makes it much easier. The movie theater provides a situation where the person is used to, provides a context where the person is used to sitting and watching something up on a screen. The movie on the screen is something that was made a long time ago. It may have been made with trickery, with special effects, with all sorts of things that, all the implication of seeing a movie is that it's not real now. Might have been real if it's a documentary some other time, but it's not real now. Then I have her float up to the projection booth. The projection booth provides a situation where she's seeing herself in the audience. The person in the audience is seeing the movie on the screen. Then we show the movie in black and white of her freaking out, falling into the bee's nest or some other example of that. By seeing that distance, thank you. By seeing that at a distance, she can view it comfortably. She says, a little weird, but clearly by her nonverbals, it's not the same as what when I first tested her response. Seeing the plexiglass, the holes in the plexiglass, reaching up and putting her hands on the plexiglass adds to this sense of separation and makes it even less likely that she would fall into the position of the audience and then possibly into the situation of the movie of the horrible thing that she experienced. Another very crucial piece here, Daniel Kahneman research has supported this, that people tend to remember the most intense emotional experience or the end of it. And so if you change the end of an experience, that makes a huge difference. You can also change the beginning of an experience. Many people, as Laurie had a tape loop that went over and over and over, many people have a still picture. They often talk metaphorically about being frozen in time. They can't get out of it. Sometimes all you have to do, and this is really not rocket science, is you say, let that still picture turn into a movie, and then it will begin to change. And then it changes and changes and changes until eventually things are better. Running the movie backwards, I inside it in color in 1.5 seconds. This is a very interesting thing. It tends to scramble the normal cause-effect sequence of experience. Normally you see a trigger and you have an emotional feeling. If you run it backwards, you have the feeling first and then you have the trigger for the experience. It provides another safety thing. The key thing is this dissociation of seeing yourself over there freaking out. But running it backwards means that if the person has a flashback and they fall back into any segment of this horrible experience, they will go backwards through the experience. Or let's say they have the choice of going backwards in the experience, and they'll pop out before the experience when everything is fine. I want to say something about her disbelief. This is one of the marvelous things about this video. She's clearly not placebo effect. She's clearly not believing that this is going to work. And I don't really care if someone raises this issue and says, well, I don't think it'll work. I say, I don't care if you think it will work. I don't do faith healing. I do scientific things and things that work. And the key question is, if it did work, would that be okay with you? And then, of course, I test at the end. I jumped ahead a little bit. Test at the end. Using the same nonverbal gestures as before, the same elicitation as before. Think about having one right here now. Now, here's the thing. What does this have to do with neuroscience? Absolutely nothing. This was 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago to the day, and she is still fine. There's a 25-year follow-up on YouTube. If you go dial up Steve Andreas Phobia Cure Part 2, and if you want to watch this again, you can see Steve Andreas Phobia Cure Part 1 is on YouTube, and see this. This was long before all the neuroscience. And here's the thing. Knowing the chemistry of cellulose and lignin doesn't help a carpenter. Carpenter needs to know about tools, needs to know about boards, needs to know about splits and wrought, different kinds of wood. Knowledge of molecules and atoms makes no difference to him at all. It's the same in therapy, apparently. Thank you. Apparently all the if you're in an interaction with a person in therapy, that could probably be described in terms of the atoms and molecules in your bodies and how they're interacting. But it has no bearing and has no advice to give you about what you can actually do in therapy. It's a different level of analysis, and it doesn't matter how true it is, it's simply inappropriate. It doesn't help you. And I think that's true of most of neuroscience. Now, some of it can be used to prove, yes, what we have been doing for years has a neural basis. I think that's nice. Sometimes it's used for normalization, but that's redundant. You can normalize it very easily, as Virginia Satir always used to do, by saying, well, we all have trouble with anger, or something like that. And you can normalize things in many, many ways, and you don't really need the crutch of neuroscience. Now, I recently heard a prominent therapist and author say very emphatically, neural pathways are created by strong emotions that never go away. They are burnt into your brain. Well, they may be burnt into your brain, but you can look at them differently. That's all. Thank you.